Today, this morning, Trump displayed once again the kind of, I don't even have a word for it anymore. It's a combination of ignorance, stupidity, narcissism, belligerence, it all mushed in together, with the emphasis being on ignorance. But he pushed back against his own intelligence division chief's national security assessment. You probably saw some of the testimony yesterday. I think we talked about a little bit of it last night. But once again, Trump tries to give the impression that he knows more. He's a very smart man, you know. Yeah, in his world, in his brain, you know, he has a wonderful brain, a great big brain. He's got a bigger brain than anybody. Too bad it's planted firmly up his ass. But Trump likes to make people think, or he thinks he's making people think, that he's so smart. Now, up against the yahoos who voted for him, yeah, he probably is. He's not smarter, but he's more manipulative. But anyway, this stupid bastard said in one of his tweets today, quote, "The intelligence people seem to be extremely passive and naive when it comes to the dangers of Iran. Perhaps intelligence should go back to school." End quote. I mean, it's just, I can't, once again, Trump has destroyed my vocabulary. The kinds of adjectives that I would normally use to describe somebody who is so grossly, abysmally stupid and arrogant as this asshole, my vocabulary has been wasted, totally wasted. I'm out of words to describe this dork. But for Trump, who never reads intelligence assessments, never pays attention to whatever his predecessors discovered over the past 75 years, gets all of his information from TV commercials that he doesn't realize are commercials, from the Fox shit sewer, and from some of the most fascistic smartasses ever to show up in media, from Limbaugh to Coulter to, well, you know the list. And that's where he gets his information. So when he calls the intelligence people extremely passive and naive, passive? Naive? Passive? An intelligence operation that for the past 75 years has wreaked more death and destruction and aggression and damage on the rest of the world than any other organization, with the possible exception of the old NKVD or the whatever the Russian intelligence and secret services came to be known as over the years. I mean, this guy is out of his fucking mind. This is where I get very uncomfortable. Defending me, Malloy, defending intelligence agencies that I know, I'm very aware of, has had instance after instance after instance of violating the sovereignty of other countries, teaching the dictators of other countries how to commit murder, how to do disappearances, how to jail people without charges. And this asshole calls them naive. He calls them passive. Passive. Probably the most violent organization in the U.S. government over the years, with the exception of the military, has been the CIA and its operatives. It just so happens that the CIA also gathers information, that's supposed to be their function, not to take action. The CIA was never charged with taking aggressive action. The Central Intelligence Agency was to amass intelligence that came in from various sources, from the military, from civilians, from the diplomatic corps, from business people, and evaluate and assess that intelligence, codify it, put it into readable form, pass it up the chain of command to the commander-in-chief and the appropriate congressional committees. Central Intelligence Agency. But of course, the CIA has been instrumental in assassinations, some in this country, destabilizing governments, overthrowing governments, supporting governments that would murder their own citizens. This is such an old story. I mean, there's nothing new about saying the CIA has been, among other things, an organization that contains within it hit squads. They called it wet work. Wet work. That's when the CIA would order somebody killed. So when Trump, in his abysmal ignorance, calls the CIA or these other intelligence agencies naive or passive, what the fuck? He displays yet again his total ignorance where it concerns what the government of the United States has been doing on the global stage since the end of World War II. He has no idea. He thinks he is aggressive because he's got a mouth the size of the Grand Canyon with nothing to back it up. He's a fucking blabbermouth that has nothing but the power of the presidency behind him. It's not his power. And he is slowly shredding it, flushing it down the commode, destroying it as more and more people, even some of the ignorant sons of bitches in the Republican Party, are starting to realize or starting to acknowledge. Surely to God they realized from day one, especially Lindsey Graham Cracker, who referred to Trump in just about every derogatory term allowed to a U.S. senator. But some of the Republican legislators now are starting to come out of the ether and realize that Trump, while occasionally he helps them because they are neo-fascists themselves, in the long run, he's destroying them for a very simple reason. He doesn't want a parliament or a legislative branch that does anything but rubber stamp what he says. So with the 2020 elections coming up, in only 22 months, some Republicans now are starting to realize that the Democrats are a force to be reckoned with yet again, and under the leadership of Pelosi, there will be asses kicked and names taken. And there's one thing about politics, as you know, if you've read Sun Tzu or Machiavelli, you first, before you go to war, you defeat your enemy. Before the first sword is drawn or lance is put inside somebody's innards, or in our time, before the first jet takes off, you defeat your enemy first, and then you go to war with him. You defeat him psychologically, materially, spiritually. Can you imagine Trump even trying to consider what the fuck that means? It's like trying to imagine a circle without a center. Or a circle with an infinite number of centers. Can you do that? That exercise in Zen madness, can you do it? No, neither can I. But Trump, trying to understand anything about global politics or governance or how to make a self-governing system work efficiently is like asking anyone to imagine a circle without a center, or a circle without a circumference. It can be done, so I've been told. Perhaps, Trump said, intelligence should go back to school. I mean, it's well, see, again, I'm out of adjectives. Anyway, in a series of Twitter posts this morning, after senior American intelligence officials briefed Congress and directly contradicted this orange dumb fuck, Trump reasserted his own conclusions and blasted his accomplishments on critical national security matters. He said, among other things, according to the New York Times, he said, quote, the Islamic State's control in parts of Iraq and Syria, his words, will soon be destroyed. He added that there was, quote, a decent chance of denuclearization in North Korea. No, there isn't. Trump doesn't understand and never will because he's an ignorant fuck. He doesn't understand that North Korea will never, ever give up the idea of nuclear weapons because they equate nuclear weapons to the survival of their state. And given that reality, which Trump cannot even fucking understand the sentence, given that reality, the fact that Kim Jong-un or his father or his grandpappy or his son or his great-grandson will ever consider not having nuclear weapons now that they have them is utter and absolute bullshit. It will never happen. Iran? Yesterday, these intelligence officials described an Iran totally different from the one that Trump wants everybody to think about. The intelligence officials tried to make it clear that Iran is not currently trying to make a nuclear bomb, and, believe it or not, is complying with the agreement from 2015, even though the Iranian agreement with 5 other countries in the United States and Iran, even though Trump, in his monumental stupidity and ignorance, has promised to withdraw us from that agreement. On Syria? Syria and ISIS? Yesterday, these intelligence officials made it clear that ISIS would go on, quote, to stoke violence, end quote, because there are thousands of fighters, ISIS fighters, still in Iran and in Iraq. They have 12 networks around the world. They have not been defeated, primarily because ISIS, the Islamic State, is it's what's the term they all use now? A non-state actor. This is not a country that can be isolated, embargoed, invaded, bombed, destroyed. This is an idea of establishing a caliphate, an Islamic caliphate, if that's not redundant, from the Mediterranean all the fucking way to India. And that idea can no more be destroyed because Trump says it's destroyed than he can, I don't know, convince people that North Korea is giving up its nuclear weapons. No, they're not. ISIS will never disappear. An idea based in one of the Abrahamic religions will never disappear. Why do I know that and you know that, but this ignorant savage fuck in the White House doesn't? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.